All right, guys, let's go ahead and discuss how we calculate percent composition. Now, we're going to start off with just a basic example, and we're starting with sodium chloride. We're going to start off doing the percent composition of that. Now, the first thing we have to do and realize that we're dealing with sodium and we're dealing with chlorine. Okay? Now, if we look at the formula, we see that we have 1 sodium and 1 chlorine, so we can go ahead and write that down, 1 sodium, 1 chlorine. We go ahead and multiply that, and remember we're going to multiply by the atomic masses on the periodic table. So we're going to go ahead and multiply that by 22.99 for sodium and 35.45 for chlorine. Okay, and obviously you multiply those guys out and we get the same number. We get 22.99 and we get 35.45. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and add those guys up to give us a total of 58.44. Now what we're going to do is to find the percent composition. Percent composition is always the part, so the parts are up here, divided by the whole, which is right down here, 58.44, and multiply it by 100. So we're going to start off up here and take our sodium and just divide it by 58.44 and multiply it by 100. Then we'll take our chlorine, divide it by 58.44, and then multiply it by 100. And we should get percentages of, for sodium, we get a percentage of 39.34, and for chlorine, we get a percentage of 60.66. Okay, moving on to another example, and on this one we're going to take silver nitrate, AgNO3, and we're going to do the percent comp for silver nitrate. Now we do the exact same thing as we did before. We break them up and we see we're going to have silver, we're going to have nitrogen, and we're going to have oxygen in this compound. We look at their subscripts and figure out that we have 1 silver, 1 nitrogen, and we have 3 oxygens. Remember, we multiply those by their atomic masses. Silver has an atomic mass of 107.87. Nitrogen is 14.01. And oxygen is 16.00. We go ahead and multiply those guys out. And we see that we get, same up top, 107.87, 14.01, and we get 48.00. We add those guys up, and we get 169.88, and that's grams per mole. Okay, remember that is our whole. Here are our parts, so we go ahead and we divide these guys up here by our whole. So we're dividing it here, dividing it here, dividing it here. And remember that after we divide them out, we always multiply by 100. So we divide these guys out right here by 169.88, and we see that we get silver is going to have a percentage of 63.50%. Nitrogen is going to have a percent of 8.25. And good old oxygen is going to have a percent of 28.26. Guys, remember that all percents should add up to right around 100%. We could be off a little bit just by some rounding. Our last percent composition question, we are going to be looking at magnesium hydroxide. So we have MgOH2. Okay, we're going to start off exactly the same. We have magnesium, we have oxygen, we have hydrogen. Now, when it comes to figuring out how many of each we have, obviously magnesium easy, it has 1. Okay, but then we look at oxygen and we see this 2 on the outside of the parentheses. Well, that 2 means that we're going to distribute that 2 and multiply it by the subscripts of both of them. So now we have 2 oxygens and we have 2 hydrogens. Okay, we go ahead and multiply those guys out by their atomic masses, and we see that we are going to get magnesium is 24.31. We see that oxygen is going to be, it's going to be 16.00. And we see that hydrogen is 1.01. We go ahead and multiply those guys out, and we will get 24.31. We get 32.00, and we will get 2.02. Okay, add those guys up, and we should get a total. So our whole is going to be 58.33. Remember, we divide our parts by the whole, so 58.33, 58.33, and 58.33. And we multiply those guys by 100, each time. And we should get percentages for magnesium. Magnesium should have a percentage of 41.68%. Oxygen should have a percent of 54.86%. And we should see that hydrogen has a percentage of 3.46%.